The vast emptiness of space stretched before J. Park's starship, the Sundown, a sleek titanium-carbon hybrid vessel that represented humanity's most advanced deep space exploration technology. At 35, Jay wasn't just a commander. He was a legend among Earth's space defense forces, known for his unorthodox strategies and incredible survival instincts. The ship's quantum communication systems suddenly erupted with strange electromagnetic pulses. Jay's neural-linked augmented reality display flickered with warning signals. Something massive was approaching. His trained eyes caught the first glimpse of an alien spacecraft that defied conventional understanding of engineering. It wasn't metallic or structured like human designs. Instead, it seemed almost organic, with pulsing bioluminescent sections that shifted and changed like living tissue. "Incoming transmission," announced Arya, the ship's advanced AI system. Her voice was calm, almost too calm for the escalating tension. The alien vessel moved with impossible grace, seemingly bending space around its impossible geometry. Jay noticed how it didn't move like a machine, but more like a predatory creature hunting its prey. Smaller drone-like entities swarmed around the main ship, their movements synchronized like a school of cosmic piranhas. "Prepare defensive protocols," Jay commanded, his hands dancing across holographic control panels. The Sundown's shield generators hummed with potential energy, quantum-locked particles ready to absorb and deflect potential attacks. But the aliens weren't interested in typical warfare. Their approach was calculated, almost surgical. Precision energy beams cut through the Sundown's initial defenses like a hot knife through butter. Jay watched in a mixture of terror and fascination as his crew's emergency protocols activated, automated systems sealing critical sections and preparing escape pods. The attack wasn't random. It felt choreographed, as if the aliens had studied human spacecraft designs for years, understanding exactly where to strike for maximum vulnerability. Jay realized they weren't just fighting, they were studying, collecting data with each precise strike. Explosions rippled across the Sundown's external hull, beautiful and terrifying in the soundless vacuum of space. Emergency force fields flickered, creating a spectacular light show of blues and violent purples. Jay knew they were losing, but surrender wasn't in his vocabulary. "Arya, initiate final defense sequence," he spoke calmly, watching holographic representations of multiple alien attack vectors. The AI's response was instantaneous. Emergency quantum scrambler protocols activated, designed to confuse advanced sensor systems. For a moment, it seemed like the Sundown might survive. But the alien vessel was beyond conventional technological understanding. Its biomechanical structure absorbed and redirected the quantum scrambler's energy, turning Jay's last defensive strategy into a spectacular failure. The final strike was elegant in its brutality, a single, focused energy beam that didn't just damage, but completely disabled critical systems. Jay felt the ship's artificial gravity fluctuate, watched as his crew was systematically immobilized by some form of advanced electromagnetic paralysis. As consciousness began to fade, Jay's last coherent thought was how beautiful and terrifying the universe could be. The alien vessel wasn't just a machine of war, it was a living, breathing entity that had just conquered another tiny piece of its cosmic territory. When he finally awakened, he would be nowhere near anything familiar. The real journey was just beginning. End of Part 1. Narrative elements, integrated, advanced space technology, alien encounter dynamics, human survival instincts, technological warfare, psychological tension, scientific speculation. Jay's eyes slowly focused in a massive circular chamber that defied every architectural principle he understood. Massive bioluminescent walls pulsed with alien rhythms, casting shifting colors that seemed to breathe and change with each passing moment. Massive crystalline structures hung from ceiling heights that stretched beyond normal perception, creating an environment that was simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. Emperor Doran sat on a throne constructed from what appeared to be living metallic organisms. His body wasn't completely solid. Parts of him seemed to shift and transform, revealing complex internal structures that looked more like advanced technological networks than biological systems. Multiple eyes, some human-like, others geometric, and angular, studied Jay with calculated precision. Human specimen, Doran's voice resonated, not through sound waves but directly into Jay's brain. You represent an anomaly in our galactic database. Your species demonstrates unpredictable, adaptive capabilities. The chamber itself seemed alive. Holographic representations of previous conquests flickered around them. Entire planetary systems reduced to digital memories, civilizations compressed into data streams. Jay realized he wasn't just a prisoner, but a potential research subject. 4. Warrior queens emerged from shadowy alcoves, each representing a different combat philosophy. HFY, tall and electrifyingly dangerous, carried what looked like a quantum-powered energy blade. Yunar moved with mechanical precision, her body augmented with biomechanical enhancements that made her more machine than organic. Sojin's presence radiated pure strategic calculation, her eyes mapping potential combat scenarios in microseconds. Ji-un stood differently. She seemed more connected to the chamber's living architecture, as if she could command the very environment around her. The challenge of stellar dominance, Emperor Doran announced, requires you to defeat our 4 primary warrior queens. Each represents a different combat discipline. Survive and you earn potential diplomatic recognition. Fail, and you become another forgotten data point in our expansive records. Jay understood the unspoken rules. This wasn't just about physical combat. It was a test of human adaptability, strategic thinking, and survival instinct. The aliens wanted to understand humanity's potential threat level, and he was their primary research subject. The first challenge would be against HFY, a warrior whose combat style integrated quantum energy manipulation with hyper-advanced martial techniques. Her blade could potentially slice through reinforced starship hulls, and her movement suggested she could predict multiple potential attack trajectories simultaneously. Holographic training environments materialized around them, landscapes that could transform instantly, gravity systems that could be manipulated, environmental conditions that could change within milliseconds. It wasn't just a fighting arena. It was a complex simulation designed to test every possible combat scenario. Jay's military training, combined with his natural human unpredictability, would be his primary weapon. The aliens expected structured, predictable responses. He would give them something entirely different. As HFY approached, her quantum blade humming with potential energy, Jay realized this was more than a personal challenge. This was humanity's first true test against a civilization that viewed them as nothing more than a potential data point in their galactic conquest. The chamber fell silent. The living walls seemed to hold their breath. Emperor Doran's multiple eyes focused with intense concentration. The challenge was about to begin. End of Part 2. Narrative elements. Integrated. Alien cultural complexity. Strategic combat scenario. Psychological warfare. Technological speculation. Human adaptability. Interdimensional conflict dynamics. The arena transformed with each movement, responding to Jay's and HFY's strategic dance. Quantum energy crackled between them, creating intricate light patterns that mapped potential. Attack trajectories. Jay wasn't just fighting, he was decoding an entire alien combat philosophy. HFY's blade moved like liquid lightning, capable of slicing through molecular structures, but Jay's military training had prepared him for something far more nuanced than direct confrontation. He'd learned years ago that true victory wasn't about overpowering your opponent, but understanding their fundamental weaknesses. Instead of blocking her attacks, Jay began to predict and redirect. His body moved with a fluid grace that confused the aliens' advanced tracking systems. Where HFY expected resistance, he created subtle disruptions, small electromagnetic pulses that interfered with her biomechanical augmentations. The chamber's living walls seemed to react to their combat, creating holographic obstacles and terrain shifts. Gravity fluctuated, energy streams crisscrossed unpredictably, but Jay remained centered. His military training had taught him one critical lesson: adaptability trumps raw power. HFY's combat style relied on precise calculations and predictive algorithms. Human unpredictability became Jay's ultimate weapon. He introduced randomness into his movements, something the aliens' advanced systems couldn't immediately comprehend. Each step was a calculated chaos, a dance that defied mathematical prediction. Suddenly, Jay noticed a subtle weakness in HFY's energy blade, a microscopic frequency disruption that could potentially destabilize her entire combat system. Most warriors would have missed this minute detail, but years of specialized training had refined his perception beyond normal human limitations. With a move that seemed almost casual, Jay introduced a quantum-level interference pattern. HFY's blade began to destabilize, its perfect energy signature fragmenting into unpredictable waves. Her shocked expression revealed something profound. Humans were not just another conquered species, but something entirely unexpected. The chamber itself seemed to hold its breath. Emperor Doran's multiple eyes widened, capturing every microscopic detail of this unprecedented confrontation. This wasn't just a battle, it was a first contact moment that would potentially redefine galactic understanding of human capabilities. Jay's victory wasn't about physical domination, but about demonstrating a fundamental truth. Human adaptability transcended technological superiority. Where the aliens relied on complex systems and predictive algorithms, humans introduced an element of pure, unpredictable creativity. As HFY's systems gradually shut down, Jay stood perfectly calm. No dramatic poses, no celebratory gestures. Just a quiet understanding that he had just rewritten the rules of engagement. The other three warrior queens watched with a mixture of shock and emerging respect. Yunar's biomechanical systems ran rapid calculations, trying to understand how a seemingly simple human could dismantle their most advanced combat technology. Emperor Doran's communication tentacles pulsed with complex data streams. This human wasn't just a specimen anymore, he was becoming a strategic anomaly that challenged everything in their galactic database. Fascinating. A telepathic whisper emerged from the Emperor's complex neural network. Completely unpredictable. Jay knew the real challenge was just beginning. Defeating HFY was merely the first step in a much larger strategic game. The next warrior would bring an entirely different set of challenges, and he would need to adapt once again. The living chamber reset, holographic environments reshaping themselves. Shadows of the next warrior began to materialize. Yun-Ah, with her perfect mechanical precision, waited in the wings. Humanity's first true galactic test was unfolding, one unexpected move at a time. End of Part 3. Narrative Elements. Integrated. Quantum combat dynamics. Human adaptability. Technological warfare. Psychological strategy. Interdimensional conflict resolution. Cultural disruption mechanics. The chamber's atmosphere shifted, becoming increasingly charged with tension as Jay's victory against HFY began to ripple through the alien civilization's complex neural network. Yuna approached with mechanical precision, her biomechanical systems calculating millions of potential combat scenarios per millisecond. But something fundamental had changed. The aliens' supposedly impenetrable technological superiority was crumbling, revealing unexpected vulnerabilities. Each of Jay's movements was now a potential systemic exploit, a living algorithm that defied their most advanced predictive models. Yuna's augmented body represented the pinnacle of their technological evolution, perfect mechanical integration, neural networks that could process information faster than most organic brains could comprehend. Her body was literally a walking supercomputer, designed to eliminate any potential threat with mathematical certainty. The battle began not with physical confrontation, but with an invisible war of information. Jay recognized that true strategic warfare happened long before the first physical strike. He had studied the aliens' communication patterns, their hierarchical structures, their fundamental weakness, and overdependence on predictive technology. Quantum data streams began to dance. Around them, holographic representations of potential combat scenarios flickering like living light. But Jay introduced something they couldn't calculate: pure human unpredictability. His movements became a form of living chaos theory. Where Yunar expected linear responses, he created multi-dimensional disruptions. Each step was a potential system crash, each gesture a potential vulnerability exploit. The mechanical warrior found herself confronting something beyond her programming, genuine human creativity. The chamber itself seemed to react, its living architectural systems struggling to comprehend the unfolding scenario. Emperor Doran's multiple sensory organs began to pulse with increasing anxiety. This wasn't just a combat scenario anymore. This was a fundamental challenge to their entire technological philosophy. Jay understood something profound. Technological superiority meant nothing without adaptive intelligence. The aliens had created perfect machines, but forgotten the most critical element of survival, the ability to truly think beyond programmed parameters. A subtle electromagnetic pulse, something Jay had learned during advanced military training, began to disrupt Yuna's complex systems. It wasn't a direct attack, but a sophisticated information warfare technique that introduced microscopic inconsistencies into her neural network. Her mechanical movements began to falter. Precision gave way to uncertainty. Calculated strikes became increasingly unpredictable. The perfect machine was experiencing something close to what humans might call confusion. The other warrior queens watched in growing horror. Their entire civilization's technological supremacy was being dismantled not through superior firepower, but through something far more dangerous: human adaptability. Emperor Doran's communication tendrils began transmitting urgent signals across their vast galactic network. Something unprecedented was happening. A single human was exposing fundamental weaknesses in their supposedly invincible technological infrastructure. Yuna's final moments were almost poetic. Her perfect mechanical body gradually shut down, not through direct destruction, but through a sophisticated information cascade that her systems couldn't comprehend or resist. As she collapsed, the chamber itself seemed to shudder. This wasn't just a defeat. This was a systemic collapse of their most fundamental belief systems. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were a potential evolutionary wildcard that could reshape entire galactic paradigms. Jay stood perfectly calm, surrounded by the flickering remnants of a technological civilization that was beginning to realize its own fundamental limitations. No dramatic gestures, no celebratory movements, just a quiet, profound understanding that he had just changed everything. The next two warrior queens would face something they had never encountered before, a truly unpredictable opponent who understood that the greatest weapon was not technology, but the ability to think beyond its limitations. The real war was just beginning. End of Part 4. Narrative Elements. Integrated. Technological warfare. Information disruption dynamics. Evolutionary strategic thinking. Systemic vulnerability. Exposure. Interdimensional conflict resolution. Human adaptive intelligence. The chamber transformed, its living architecture reshaping itself into something that resembled a diplomatic space rather than a combat arena. Jay stood at the center, surrounded by the remaining warrior queens, Sujin and Ji-eun, who now looked at him with a mixture of respect and cautious curiosity. Emperor. Doran's massive form shifted, its multiple sensory organs recalibrating to process this unprecedented moment. The cultural protocols that had governed their civilization for millennia were now fundamentally challenged by a single human who had defied every predictive model. By ancient stellar covenant, the Emperor's telepathic communication resonated. Through the chamber, you have defeated our warrior queens. The traditional response requires your integration into our royal lineage. Jay understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just a personal challenge anymore. He had become a potential diplomatic bridge between two entirely different civilizations. The aliens' rigid cultural system had just created an unexpected opportunity for mutual understanding. Sujin approached first, her strategic mind already calculating the potential galactic implications of this moment. Her biomechanical systems analyzed Jay with a complexity that went beyond simple physical assessment. She saw a potential solution to generations of technological stagnation. Ji-eun's approach was different. Connected more deeply to the living architectural systems, she perceived Jay as a kind of evolutionary anomaly, a potential catalyst that could reshape their entire civilization's understanding of intelligent life. The chamber began to pulse with complex energy patterns. Holographic representations of multiple star systems flickered around them, showing the vast territorial conquests of the alien civilization. But something was changing. The rigid conquest patterns were beginning to dissolve, replaced by more intricate adaptive networks. Jay realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. His victory wasn't just a personal triumph, but a potential turning point for galactic dynamics. The aliens' technological superiority had always been based on absolute control, but he had introduced a concept they had never truly understood: collaborative evolution. Diplomatic integration requires complete cultural exchange, Emperor Doran announced, its voice a complex mix of technological communication and biological resonance. You will become part of our royal lineage, but you will also bring your human perspective into our core systems. The marriage ceremony that followed was unlike anything in human or alien historical records. It wasn't a personal union, but a complex diplomatic protocol that integrated Jay's human adaptability directly into the alien civilization's core decision-making structures. Sujin's strategic mind began to recalibrate their entire exploration protocols. Ji-Yun's connection to living technologies started introducing more adaptive systems. The warrior queens were no longer just combat units, they were becoming bridges of understanding. Holographic representations showed immediate changes across their galactic territories. Conquered civilizations that had been under strict technological control began experiencing subtle shifts. The rigid control was being replaced by more collaborative governance models. Emperor Doran's communication networks were transforming. Where once they transmitted pure conquest strategies, now they were processing complex adaptive protocols. Humanity was no longer just another species to be conquered. They were a potential evolutionary partner. Jay understood the profound responsibility of this moment. He wasn't just a prisoner or a diplomatic token. He was becoming a living bridge between two entirely different evolutionary paths. The chamber's living walls seemed to breathe with new potential. Generations of technological conquest were giving way to something far more complex, a genuine opportunity for mutual understanding. The diplomatic integration completed, Jay realized his greatest victory wasn't defeating the alien warriors. It was introducing a fundamental concept that could reshape galactic civilization: the power of adaptive, collaborative intelligence. The real journey was just beginning. End of Part 5. Narrative Elements. Integrated, Diplomatic Transformation. Evolutionary Cultural Exchange. Technological Adaptation. Interdimensional Cooperation. Systemic Cultural Disruption. Collaborative Intelligence Dynamics.